Okay, what may be the differences between Tagore and Gandhi? Though there is lot of ideological convergence, there seem to be certain distinct personality differences between Gandhi and Tagore. What are they? Gandhi is more duty oriented or responsibility, discipline, moral. Okay, discipline and moral. Whereas Tagore is more freedom loving, creative, and thinks freely. And maybe more direct perception of truth. Okay. Less thought oriented and more feeling oriented. So you can see on many areas where they differed, Tagore seemed to have more direct perception and a superior quality of thinking. Gandhi may have acted, but in terms of feeling and thinking, Tagore seems to be far superior. You may disagree with my overall observation. After going through conversations between them, I think Tagore represents a more evolved consciousness compared to Gandhi. More evolved consciousness. And if you believe in Hinduism and rebirth, I dare say Gandhi needs many more cycles of birth and rebirth to become like a Tagore. Tagore has that freedom, spontaneity, creativity, and direct perception of truth. So that's why between the two, I think Tagore represents evolution of consciousness towards higher end. And Gandhi always knew it. That is why Gandhi felt bonded to Tagore. Good people always get bonded to people who are better than them, or higher versions of them. Okay, that is my kind of summary. Let us look at certain disagreements. For example, on discipline and discipline. Gandhi visited Santiniketan and he found that the upper caste people are sitting in a separate line compared to, lower caste people. Gandhi thought that should be discontinued. Okay. So Gandhi wanted all of them to sit at one place because they should lose these distinctions based on caste. But you know what Tagore said? He said anything forced would not be permanent. So don't force. That is Tagore's version of education. Gandhi was interested in results, but Tagore was interested in result, but without forcing them, because he knows that result through force won't come. And then before that, some students from Phoenix, South Africa, trained under Gandhi, came and stayed for some time in Santiniketan. Do you know what Tagore observed on those boys? They are trained to obey, which is bad for a human being. These boys are in danger of forgetting to wish for anything, and wishing is the best part of attainment. So Gandhi believed in correcting through discipline, but Tagore didn't think so. And to Tagore, education is this. From our childhood, habits are formed and knowledge is imparted in such a manner that the life is weaned away from nature. And our mind and the world are set in opposition from the beginning of our days. We are made to lose our world to find a bag full of information instead. We rob the child of his earth to teach him geography, of language to teach him grammar. I think something like this, Gandhi would never be in a position even to conceive. Because this comes from enormous freedom. Gandhian thinking is more in terms of duty and discipline, not in terms of freedom and creativity. Then, on Hindu-Muslim unity, this conversation took place around non-cooperation movement. Gandhi came to Santiniketan. So these were the actual conversations and not correspondence between them through letters. On Hindu-Muslim unity, Gandhi said, Gurudev, I have already achieved Hindu-Muslim unity. And Tagore's response, I don't agree. You have persuaded Muslim and Hindu to sit side by side on the political platform and to crack a whip against the British Raj. He was referring to non-cooperation movement and how Muslims were brought on the issue of Khilafat. But how far down in their hearts and minds does the sense of unity you talk about penetrate within the minds of your Muslim and Hindu followers? When the British either walk out or are driven out, will Hindu and Muslim then lie down peacefully together? You know they will not. Why? Hindu-Muslim unity became absent soon after the non-cooperation movement, not after British were driven out. So Tagore could see the superficiality, which Gandhi did not see. Gandhi thought, okay, he was doing something, but Tagore saw it was superficial. But what is Tagore's solution to this? Education. Okay. Only when the children of our different religions, communities, and castes have been schooled together can you hope to overcome the violent feelings which exist today between Hindus and Muslims and between high caste and low caste. So, no simple solutions. You are still in Gandhi. Education is the only solution. Schooling together. Okay. And then Gandhi says, okay, at least we believe in education. We are both interested in education. But Tagore disagrees that. He says he thinks education is not a big priority to Gandhi. He says, you first pick out the brightest of the young men and enlist them in your political organization. And the less bright you allow to open schools that can offer only a travesty of education. So Tagore is criticizing, you are basically politician. Your primary work is in politics and not education. Education is not primary to you. Okay. That's what he's saying. So, would Gandhi have disagreed on these things? Not really. And then Tagore has something to say on Gandhi's obsession with Charkha. Tagore says there is excessive focus on Charkha. Only one means of attaining Swaraj has been definitely ordered, and the rest is vast silence. He's criticizing Gandhi's obsession on Charkha. Gandhi restricted his call to one narrow field alone. Spin and weave, spin and weave. How can Swaraj be brought about by everyone engaging for a time in spinning? And then Tagore, by nature, rebels against discipline and imposition. He says, I am not able to obey this to burn foreign clothes. In fact, Tagore considers his first duty to put up a valiant fight against this terrible habit of blindly obeying orders. So, not that Tagore was saying that Charkha was wrong, but he was asking, why this obsession? Why this force? Why this imposition? Why this discipline? And then at the same time, because this was conversation where Gandhi was aiming to enlist Tagore's participation, where Gandhi was critical of the non-cooperation, Tagore was critical of non-cooperation movement. And he believed that non-cooperation movement was spreading anger. Okay. So it was in this context, Tagore asked one very interesting question. Gandhiji, why do you allow your followers to call you Mahatma? Then asking, are you a Mahatma? Gandhi says, of course I am not. Gandhi is not saying, so are you a Gurudev? Gandhi is not like that. Of course I am not. But Indians by nature have always been worshippers of symbols, of images. They need an image. And if they take me for one, will that not help them to mobilize and to suffer for such a noble cause? Okay. Tagore had this to comment. I wonder whether you are being quite fair to our people or honest with them. So, this is a very interesting conversation. Asking Gandhi, don't think too high of yourself. Though title of Mahatma is given only by Tagore. Okay. And then on idolatry, this is the conversation reported by others who was a part of this. Gandhi said in the context of lower caste people going to temple, said Gandhi, the painted piece of stone is the only tangible symbol of God our half-starved brother has ever had. How can we deny him the only link between himself and God? He's saying lower caste people needs to have an idol. And Tagore immediately reacted to that statement. If beads and painted stones are not righteous for us, then they are not righteous for any other people, however lovely. So Tagore is saying that whatever higher caste is capable of, lower caste is capable of. Not that higher caste people need to have spirituality and lower caste people need to have idols. And Tagore disagreed on Gandhi's views on caste also. Gandhi said vocational division was fine, but Tagore said vocational divisions, when perpetuated, led to anything else but sterility in the long run, and making vocation depend on birth is unscientific. Tagore would side with Ambedkar on these issues. Okay. And then Tagore was highly critical of one statement Gandhi made. On January 1934, an earthquake ravaged Bihar. Gandhi said, earthquake is a divine chastisement for the great sin we have committed and are still committing against those whom we describe as untouchables. Earthquake, he said, is a punishment. But Tagore wrote, this kind of unscientific view of things are too readily accepted by a large section of our countrymen. Okay. But interestingly, Gandhi did not say sorry. Gandhi said, he only said what he believed in. Gandhi wrote, I have long believed that the physical phenomena produce both physical and spiritual. And the converse I hold to be equally true. So spiritual phenomena will produce the physical also. In this case, the connection is instinctively felt by me. I don't have any evidence. I will not give the scientific proof, but this is instinctively felt by me. So you can see Tagore's view is more humane, more scientific. Okay. And but then both Gandhi and Tagore were close, disagreeing like this. And they were so close, they needed each other's approval. Okay, so look at this. There's a Gandhi took a fast unto death against the communal award in 1932. And before his fasting from September 20th, 1932, Gandhi wrote to Tagore, if your heart approves of the action, I want your blessing. In fact, Gandhi was interacting and seeking blessings at certain important events of his life. But in this case, Tagore gave his blessing before he read Gandhi's letter. So before this, Gandhi received, our sorrowing hearts will follow your sublime penance with reverence and love. And Tagore was there when Gandhi broke his fast on 26th, 1932, September. Okay. So this shows close relationship between the two. And why was this relationship like this? Why this mutual admiration? As I said, I think Gandhi always saw higher side of himself in Tagore, though he was arguing against some of the proposals by Tagore. So in that context, what actually Gandhi said after Tagore's death is interesting. In December 1945, in December 1945, in Santiniketan, Gandhi said, I started with the disposition that to detect a conflict between Gurudev and myself, disposition to detect a conflict, but ended with the glorious discovery that there was none. So finally, Gandhi was saying, there was no difference between me and Tagore. So why these conversations are important is that many people disagreed with Gandhi, and Gandhi had discussions with others. But discussion with Tagore is based on so much of agreement on the issues. So there is so much of convergence between Gandhi and Tagore that their differences are interesting. Their differences, through differences, you can see how Gandhi is being questioned, ridiculed, criticized, being challenged by somebody Gandhi thought superior to him. Okay, so a kind of interrogating Gandhi. Discussions with others like Ambedkar do not have this much of depth, subtlety. Because both Gandhi and Tagore saw the world in incredibly similar ways. So that made these conversations very interesting. We explained why Gandhi felt bonded to Tagore, but why did Tagore feel bonded to Gandhi? I think this is the reason, as Tagore himself explained, Tagore, July 1939, just before his death. Very important. Though I have the imagination to conceive, I have not the power to carry out. Only few men in the world have this power. And since our country has had the good fortune of giving birth to such a man, the way should be kept clear for his progress. I certainly would never think of impeding it. So Tagore thought of himself only as a thinker, not a man of action, not in a position to put his ideas into action, which Tagore thought Gandhi was doing. So to Gandhi, a higher version of himself criticizing him through Tagore, and to Tagore, an inadequate insufficient part of him, or some part of him some neglected part, but important, is being carried out through Gandhi. Something like that. In that sense, they were complementing each other. Okay. So, these conversations show what was in the minds of these two great individuals that India produced.